it's Amanda Wells here, and I want to talk to you a bit today about conflict resolution. I think it's one of the things that often we can get really, really wrong, and it's really sad because it's one of the things that we need to get really, really right. Often nothing is more messy in a relationship than when we're dealing with conflict. But there are some things that we can do, we even do ourselves, that is totally wrong in a conflict. And the other thing is we need to be aware if this thing happens to us when we're dealing with conflict. Now, before I go into those few things, let me just say two areas here. Number one, deal with conflict. Don't run away, but deal with it. A lot of people are afraid of dealing with conflict, and often it's because of insecurities in us. We decide to just deflect, or we decide to walk away, run away from it. We ignore it, or we push someone aside, not telling them what they've done. That is the worst way to deal with a conflict. It will create more conflict because the person that you're doing it to has no idea why. Very, very, very occasionally they would know why you're doing what you're doing. And so you're giving way for wrong perceptions. Number two, the other thing is never deal with conflict on social media, Facebook and Twitter. Facebook and Twitter are snapshots, you might say. They just take small bites of information and put it out there. Now, when we're on the phone or face-to-face or even in an email, we are more relational. Dear so-and-so, hi, how are you today? And then we go into what is disturbing us. You'll find that on Messenger or on Facebook particularly, you will just want to give a bite of information. And then you will wonder why the other person reacts strongly, because we're not really being relational. You don't know how the other person is feeling, what their facial expressions are, and you will lose friendships when you try and do something on Facebook. So that's a no-no. So let's look at a few ways that people react when confronted, and let's make sure that we don't do this. Number one, gaslighting. Gaslighting is a manipulative tactic that can be described in different variations of like 3 words. That didn't happen. You imagined it. You're just crazy. You ever had someone say that to you? Well, it's really an insidious manipulative tactic because it distorts and erodes a sense of reality in the person. It eats away at your ability to trust yourself and inevitably disables you from feeling justified in calling out mistreatment and justified from looking at this to resolve a conflict. You have to know who you are. So when someone comes at you with this, you have to know that you're being manipulated, number one. And the first thing that they will do is try and distort your reality. So you have to know who you are in God and know what your reality is. One of the best ways to do this is say, okay, you explain the situation to me, then I can talk to you about it, and let's see how our perceptions have both misled us and taken us on different paths. Don't do this to someone else, and don't let someone else do this to you. The other one is generalizations. Everybody feels this. Now, when you are trying to have a conflict resolved, a lot of times people will say, oh, look, everybody feels it. Well, everybody doesn't feel it. Or we could even say it ourselves. Well, everybody said it. Well, that's wrong. Let's go back to the truth. It's a blanket statement and doesn't acknowledge every single person in the room. So go back to the truth, because it is the truth that makes you free. Another one is moving the goalposts. Have you ever had someone when you're in the middle of a conflict and suddenly the goalposts are totally moved? They, you are saying one thing and all of a sudden they're saying, well, you should have done this 5 years ago. The goalposts are moved. Don't play that game. You've got to validate and approve yourself and know that you are more than enough. You don't have to be made to feel that you're constantly deficient or unworthy in some way. And that's what moving the goalposts will do. It will always make you feel that you are less than, or you make another person feel they're less than. Don't do it. Also, when you're in an argument or something with someone, don't bring up something that's totally unrelated and happened a year ago, 6 years ago, whatever. This is called changing the goalposts, and it's a manipulative behavior to try and make you win the argument. The other one is changing the subject. This is really, really difficult because when someone tries to change the subject in a conflict where you are trying to resolve the issue, it really is a way and means of avoiding accountability. And so they will try and deroot you. They will change the subject totally, and you can, and it's impossible to engage on a relevant issue. So you've got to stand back and say, hang on, you have just changed the subject. Let's get back on the subject again. If you are disinterested and this is something you don't want to discuss because you don't want to have an invitation to an argument that you don't want, a party you don't want to join, tell the person, just a moment, I am disengaging from this because I don't want to spend the energy on this. I want to spend energy on something that's more constructive. So at least the person knows that you're changing the subject. Another one is never get into name calling. Right at the moment, we are seeing name calling instead of resolving conflict well. Everywhere we go, we're either homophobes, xenophobes, something's wrong with us, we're bigots, people are name calling, and it is totally destructive. It's the playground bully does this. And so don't tolerate it. Don't tolerate it in your own life. Don't tolerate it in someone else's life. Don't internalize it and think, well, maybe I am that. Realize that they are resorting to name calling, and really it's because they're deficient in any higher level method of resolving conflict. Another one is a smear campaign. Never, ever get into this toxic behavior. And it is toxic because if it happens to you, it is so toxic. You start to control others by playing the martyr. And I'm telling you, it is a toxic behavior. A smear campaign is a preemptive strike that tries to sabotage the reputation of another and slander their name. You and I have to know who we are in God. And many times you'll come across this. There is not much you can do about it unless you find the root of the person who made this negative and false accusation against you, and you confront them. You just have to know who you are in God, and you have to know that God loves you, and really you have to hold your head high and rise above it. But it often, if it's happening in a workplace, don't, take notes, document any harassment, because this is one of the nastiest and the most toxic of all behaviors where it comes to conflict resolution, because you're not resolving the conflict really. And don't allow someone to sabotage your reputation and slander your name. If someone does it about someone else, stop them immediately and tell them this is a toxic conversation. I hope that helped you today, and just know that God loves you Resolving conflict is important, but doing it the right way. Have a face-to-face meeting with the person. If you can't do that, do it on the telephone.